Today, we're going to deconstruct a short story that pulls off a really cool trick. It builds up this whole world, this conflict, this hero, but it holds back one single, absolutely crucial piece of information. It's a secret that, once it's out, changes everything you thought you knew. And it all kicks off with this one haunting line. So the story, The Crimson Forest, just drops us right in it with that line. Instantly, you know you're in a place filled with fear and mystery. There's a town, it's under attack, and there's this terrifying, repeating horror that happens like clockwork with the full moon. The stage is perfectly set for a classic monster story. And right away, the story lays out its core conflict. On one side, you've got the human village. It's growing, it's expanding, it's literally paving over nature. And on the other side, you have the ancient forest, this world of natural, perfect harmony. So this tension, right? Development versus nature, it's there from the very first page. All right, let's dig into this first part of the story. The village has a huge problem, and it's caught in this really terrifying cycle. Every time the humans do something, there's a violent, almost supernatural reaction. See, the town's growth is just relentless. More people keep showing up, and the council, the people in charge, they just demand more and more space. And we're not talking about careful logging here. This is just clear cutting. Acres and acres of stumps are left behind. The narrator makes it super clear that the balance between the village and the forest, it's been completely shattered. And, well, all that destruction does not go unnoticed. Something is fighting back. The story introduces this beast, this mysterious creature that's basically acting like the forest's own personal avenger, responding to all that destruction with its own kind of brutal, ritualistic violence. And the beast's justice is really specific, almost symbolic. Every single full moon, 5 lumberjacks, the very people cutting down the trees, are killed. They're left pierced on the branches of the oldest tree in town. The number is always the same, and the victims are always targeted. This is not random chaos, it's a message. Okay, so now that we have the conflict set up, the story gives us our hero. You know, in the middle of all the fear and the destruction, one person decides to stand up and speak for the forest. And our guide through this whole mess is the narrator. She's presented as the clear good guy. She's passionate, she's smart, and she really seems to care. She sees the long-term disaster that the council is creating, and she decides she just can't stay quiet anymore. She's the voice of reason. And her argument isn't just, oh, save the trees. It's logical. She gets right in the council's face and hits them with the ecological consequences of what they're doing. Droughts, floods, losing all the wildlife. She's fighting for the town's survival just as much as she is for the forest's. And then that number, 5, it shows up again. How about that? Just like there are 5 lumberjacks targeted for destruction, our narrator gathers 4 friends to stand with her. They call themselves the 5. The story is creating this really powerful, deliberate parallel. 5 destroyers versus 5 protectors. And it looks like she wins. The council, kind of stunned by her logic, agrees to work on a plan for protected forest reserves. And as the reader, you feel this moment of relief. You think, okay, awesome, the hero did it. A peaceful solution is coming. But right when you're feeling that relief, the story just completely switches gears. We leave the narrator's logical arguments behind, and we jump straight into the mind of the antagonist. The beast is described in these terrifying primal terms. It's a creature of pure instinct, midnight black fur, tracking its prey by the smell of iron from their axes. It's painted as this perfect predator, a force of nature totally separate from the human world of politics and debates. Now, this is super important. The beast doesn't see itself as a monster. In its own head, it's a righteous executioner. It truly believes it's acting for all the quiet villagers who are too scared to stand up to the council themselves. It's delivering what it thinks is a necessary final warning. Okay, so we've got these two parallel stories going, right? The heroic activist and the monstrous avenger. But the author has been leaving little breadcrumbs for us all along. And this is where we finally put all the pieces together. This is the big question the whole story has been building towards. Are these two characters really separate forces, just fighting on the same side? Or is something else going on here? The author gives us the evidence, hiding it in plain sight. Just look at the language here. The narrator describes the anger that coils in my gut. The beast feels a fire of hatred burning within its belly. The narrator's gut twists with nausea. The beast's gut twists when it thinks about the council. I mean, the phrasing is practically identical. But the final undeniable clue, the real smoking gun, comes from this sudden, really jarring shift in the point of view. The whole story, the beast, is described in the third person. You know, it, or the beast. But in the very last sentence, that all changes. You pounce. The story is suddenly talking right to you, the reader. But it's not actually talking to us. It's talking to the narrator. That third-person wall between the activist and the monster just completely disappears in that one shocking word. And there it is. The secret is out. The passionate hero who's arguing for peace during the day is the same being that's carrying out monstrous violence at night. They aren't two separate entities. They're two sides of the exact same coin. A protector who's been pushed way too far. So what's the point of this whole trick? Why build the entire story around this one reveal? Let's take a look at the incredible power of this storytelling technique. This technique has a name. It's called withheld information. The author intentionally keeps this one central fact, that the narrator is the beast, from us. And by doing that, they totally play with our perception and force us to completely rethink everything we just read once the truth comes out. I mean, just think about how this completely transforms the story. We start out reading what we think is a pretty simple fantasy tale about good versus evil, but the reveal just blows that whole idea apart. Suddenly, it's not a monster story anymore. It's a psychological tragedy about a desperate protector who feels like she has to become a monster to save her world. And that's the real question the story leaves us with. By holding back that one little detail, it forces us to deal with a much more complex and honestly uncomfortable idea. Where's the line? At what point do good intentions twist and curdle into monstrous actions? It's a heavy question, and just a brilliant example of how a secret can be the most powerful weapon a storyteller has.